What's going on, Geach Gang? Welcome to another episode of GAG with Geach. Now, I got another gag for y'all this week. So, Dawn Richard, even though she said her name is Dawn Richard because she from New Orleans, no, your name is Dawn Richard. So Dawn Richard, she's a former member of Diddy Kane, the girl group Diddy Kane, and she was also in Diddy's Dirty Money. So she's filed a lawsuit against P. Diddy too, and rightfully so. I'm on Dawn's side. I'm not into victim shaming on this channel. So, but anyway, before we get into the tea, and I got the documents up here that I'm gonna read for y'all. Before we get into it, I'm gonna pour me a little bit of red wine. So. Cheers. I got the documents. Dawn, she's suing Diddy too because he did some crazy stuff to her as well. And Diddy, I'm so glad they finally got your side ass. So let's get into these documents. Dawn, she says during the auditions of Making the Band, Mr. Combs projected an aura of superiority, wealth, and power. Mr. Combs regularly wore sunglasses and avoided looking at the female contestants in the eye, contributing to an atmosphere of uncertainty and intimidation. Let me say that again. During the audition of the set of Making the Band, Mr. Combs projected an aura of superiority, wealth, and power. Mr. Combs regularly wore sunglasses and avoided looking at the female contestants in the eyes, contributing to an atmosphere of uncertainty and intimidation. So, Diddy, you was out here wearing glasses when you was doing that show Making the Band. And let me go ahead and say this too, Diddy. I ain't never really liked your ass from when you made them churn walk all the way down that across the Brooklyn Bridge for that cheesecake. Y'all remember that on Making the Band when Diddy did that? He made them churn walk all the way to go get him a cheesecake, knowing he didn't want no cheesecake. What the restaurant was called, Junior's or Mister's or something like that. But yeah, I remember that on Making the Band. And although you did that for entertainment, because in reality TV, you got to be a little entertaining. You was wrong for making them churn walk all the way down. And you didn't even want the cheesecake. But they do anything for a show or anything for clout. It goes on to say, during auditions, Mr. Combs spoke to the female contestants in a hostile, condescending manner, making disparaging gender-based remarks such as calling them fat, ugly, bitches, and hoes. Now see, when we was watching Making the Band, because I'm a child of the 90s and in the early 2000s, and when we was watching Making the Band, they ain't played all that. Now see, they cut all that out. So maybe there's something you did to them behind the cameras, Diddy. Miss Richard felt threatened and intimidated by Mr. Combs' blatant disdain for the young women like herself who are excited for the opportunity to be on his show. And for y'all that don't know, if it's some churn watching this right now that you may be younger than the age of, let's say maybe 25, and you don't know all them good reality shows that used to go on back in the day, everybody wanted to be on Making the Band. Making the Band, the people that was on there, they had, it was lit back in the day. It was a show everybody wanted to be on. I even wanted to be on Making the Band. We now used to sing and stuff back in the day. When I used to give a little bit of that, I can't sing for shit, but I still want to be on Making the Band. So yeah, it says, once the band was made, Mr. Combs' contempt for women was readily apparent as he continued to display aggressive and hostile behavior towards Miss Richard and her all-female Diddy Kane bandmates. Mr. Combs regularly referred to the five women as bitches and hoes and denigrated their physical appearance. By way of example, Mr. Combs stated that Miss Richards was too skinny and needed to do something about her face. Nah, Diddy, I don't know what exactly you think Dawn should have did about her face, because Dawn is a very pretty lady. She's very pretty. So what does she need to do about her face? Is it because you wanted her to do something about her face because you ain't like looking at it? We all know, Diddy, you don't like looking at no woman's face. You will keep on women and stuff as your bills and your pawns, but we all know you like the jangling, jaggy. We all know you like a little dick. Then that's why you was making where white fingernail policy gripped on baby black dicks, according to the other lawsuits that was filed against you that Cassie put against you. On one occasion, in or around 2005, during the first season of Making the Band 3, Miss Richard observed Mr. Combs' ex-partner and the mother of three of his children, Kim Porter, leaving Mr. Combs' recording studio in tears with visible facial injuries, including a lacerated lip. I think I said that word right, lacerated. Anyway, we're going to go with that. So, and you know what? People have been saying for years they really wanted to know what happened to Kim Porter and Diddy. Diddy is a monster. Diddy been a monster. We been ain't fucking with Diddy for real. All those kids of the early 90s and stuff that really know what was going on with Diddy when you was stealing all them people money. So it's ironic that you would name your group that Don and Kalina was in Dirty Money, because you stole all them people money, and the way you got your money wasn't really the right way. It was unethical, and that's why you called your group Dirty Money. Let's continue reading. Realizing that Mr. Combs was capable of committing acts of violence against women caused Miss Richard to feel deep apprehension and fear that Mr. Combs could one day physically harm her. But you know, Don, you stayed it. Like anybody want to go from the hood, and like I said, I'm not going to victim shame, because at the end of the day, Don, you were just trying to get up out the hood. You was just trying to do what was good for you and make a way for yourself. So anybody would have probably stayed, especially, you know, when you so young and or a teenager, your early 20s, and you really want to show the world your talent and make a way for yourself and just chase fame. Because I know back in the day, chasing fame, everybody wanted, even to this day, everybody want to be famous. Everybody still want to be famous. Everybody want to be seen. Everybody want to be heard. It don't matter if you get on here and say you don't, you do. So, again, you know, Dawn was just trying to chase her dreams. She was just trying to make a better way for herself. But she got scared, so she still stayed in the group, which Diddy Kane was very successful, and they got some really good music. Aubrey O'Day tried to tell y'all. She been trying to tell y'all she was the only one that wouldn't sign those NDAs that Diddy was sending to try to quiet everybody. Aubrey was the only one who went signing. The rest of y'all was signing them NDAs so y'all couldn't speak ill of Diddy. But y'all knew Diddy was doing that bullshit. But you know what? I'm glad Cassie finally stood up and came out. And now this just a domino effect. And now it's giving other women and other victims of Diddy's the courage to stand up and let their voice be heard based on what they went through with Diddy. So I'm glad Cassie, she stood up, and now, you know, everybody's coming forward. Miss Richard was present when Mr. Combs was introduced to Cassie Ventura for the first time in around 2006. The moment Mr. Combs first saw Miss Ventura, his demeanor noticeably shifted. Mr. Combs positioned himself directly in front of Miss Ventura's seat, invaded her personal space, and fixated on her with an intense, unyielding stare, isolating her from the other people in the room, including Miss Ventura's boyfriend, music producer Ryan Leslie. And now, Diddy, we know the story where you trying to intimidate Ryan Leslie. Now, we all done heard about that one now. Dawn, she's saying she was present to see all this stuff. She was present to see it all, and basically solidifying all the stuff Cassie said against Diddy, which we all believed you, Cassie. We all believe, especially when we seen that horrendous video of what he did to you, putting his hands on the woman. I don't respect no man that put their hand on a woman. Coincidentally, the first meeting between Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura was the first time that Miss Richard was in Mr. Combs' presence without a camera crew filming. Of course, he wasn't going to get that on camera because he didn't want the world to know how much of a monster he was. Observing Mr. Combs behave in such an intimidating, predatory manner the first time that they were off the camera made Miss Richard feel deeply apprehensive and afraid of him. Now, see, one thing about Diddy, sit up in my seat for this one. One thing about a monster like Diddy, they know all the body movements and everything they got to do to make you intimidated of them. So he knew what he was doing. He was doing that to Cassie, but also training Don. You will be scared and you will be intimidated and you will do what the hell I say. That's what Diddy was doing to Don. Subsequently, Miss Ventura ended her relationship with Mr. Leslie and began dating Mr. Combs, who became violent and abusive towards her. But again, we're not gonna victim shame. Cassie, you left Ryan Leslie, who was probably good to you, to go to Diddy, and you was young. You were trying to chase a dream, so you were just looking like. I just think it's human nature to, if you're in one situation and you may think the grass is greener on the other side, you're going to go to the other side where you think the grass may be greener at. So, again, that's especially when you 18, 19, 20 years old, of course you're going to go where you think is better at. So, we're not, like I said, we're not going to get at Cassie, for that. She did what any young person would do, just wanting a better life. So, for the majority of Miss Richards, I almost said Miss Richard, because I remember on Making the Band, you was on there telling people your last name was Richard. It's Richard, not Richard. Your last name Richard. For the majority of Miss Richards' tenure as a member of Danity Kane and Diddy Dirty Money, Mr. Combs required her to remain at his various residences and studios in New York, Los Angeles, Florida, New Jersey for activities such as recording, rehearsing, dressing, preparing costumes, and exercising. Diddy had Don on loud. Throughout the production of Making the Band 3 and 4, Mr. Combs deprived Miss Richard and her Danity Kane bandmates of basic needs such as adequate food and sleep. When Miss Richard and her Danity Kane bandmates requested meals or rest, Mr. Combs refused and chastised them with the derogatory comments such as, "You bitches don't want this. Y'all are not hungry enough. I'm paying you bitches to work." That what Diddy said to him. It's right. I'm reading it. That's what it say right here. This is what I'm reading. This demeaning behavior gradually undermined Miss Richards' confidence and contributed significantly to her growing feelings and insecurities and fear of reprisal from Mr. Combs. Let me take me a little sip of my drink. There's a lot to take in because Diddy, you was a monster. You was a whole monster. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs will regularly be awake for prolonged periods of time because he was high on drugs. Probably was high on a little bit of that powder. During these periods, Mr. Combs demanded continuous access to Miss Richard and her Danity Kane bandmates, often forcing them to record and rehearse for stretches of 36 to 48 hours without breaks. 34 to 48 hours without breaks, Diddy. That's what you had them girls doing. Not even on a 9 to 5. Us 9 to 5 workers know you at least get a 15-minute breaks every few hours. You had them working 36 to 48 hours and you ain't gave them no breaks. At least if you was gonna be a monster, you could have gave them a break and you could have took a break from being a monster. P did it. They were forced to choose between eating and sleeping. Miss Richard lost a significant amount of weight, weighing approximately 100 pounds at the height of 5'4". You made this girl lose all that weight by starving them, making them do all that working, not giving them no breaks. She only 5'4" and she got down to 100 pounds. P did it. Don began to normalize those extreme conditions and perceive them as standard requirements of her participation in Danity Kane. Again, she just wanted to chase her dream so bad, and she really wanted this so bad that she was willing to deal with all this. Poor Don. Don, I'm sorry you had to go through this, baby. Mr. Combs regularly sent his associates to wake Miss Richard and her Danity Kane bandmates in the overnight hours so he could watch them rehearse, being perverted. The regularity of these disturbances led Miss Richards to adapt by sleeping in a sitting position, fully dressed and with makeup on, heightening her anxiety. Over the time, his abnormal sleeping arrangements came to feel routine, further normalizing Mrs. Combs' invasive demand. In addition to exhausting rehearsals, Mr. Combs required Miss Richard and her bandmates to participate in intense workouts with a personal trainer. On one occasion, while running on the beach, Miss Richard became so dehydrated that she vomited. Instead of offering medical assistance, MTV Network's camera crew filmed the incident, contributing to her acceptance of such treatment as part of her professional life. That's like I said, when you really want this and you want fame so bad, you willing to do whatever it takes. And everybody that watched Making the Band, y'all know them people was on there willing to do whatever it took to get famous and make a better way for themselves, get out the current situation they was in. These reality shows, they really play on people that just want to make a way out of themselves and get themselves out of a bad situation. They exploit these people so bad, and because they know a lot of people want to be famous and want the spotlight on them and want to make a good amount of money to get out of their current situation, this is what they do to people like that. This is a shame. The unrelenting and rigorous schedule of rehearsals, performance, and near constant filming that Mr. Combs imposed caused Miss Richard to experience extreme weight loss, dehydration, fatigue, and painful rashes from the microphone packs she was required to wear on her back. These conditions intensified Miss Richards' feelings of powerlessness as she increasingly viewed them as part of her professional reality and feared the consequences of any resistance. Dawn said she was there when Diddy first met Cassie, and his body language and how he was speaking to Cassie was in a very intimidating way, which then made Dawn feel scared. So this all leads up to him abusing her from all the things I just read to now she's feeling powerless, and she knew there would be consequences if she resists anything. In a further assertion of power and dominance, Mr. Combs insisted on holding meetings while dressed only in his underwear. Diddy, you was having meetings in your drawers in front of these women. Fucking pervert. On one occasion in 2008 at his Miami residence, Mr. Combs emailed Miss Richard directing her to meet him in the living room. When she arrived, he was wearing only his underwear. Miss Richard asked Mr. Combs to put clothes on, but he refused, stating, "This my fucking house." That what you told her, Diddy? You told her you ain't had to put on no drawers and cover up your tail because this your fucking house. You ain't had no respect for women. Mr. Combs then conducted a meeting lasting approximately an hour while dressed in his underwear, causing Miss Richard to feel violated and embarrassed, and amplifying her feelings of powerlessness. Following the official Danny DeCane breakup in early 2000, Miss Richard experienced significant financial hardships. With no prospective opportunities for employment within the entertainment field, Miss Richard spent several months traveling from Baltimore to Daddy's House recording studios in New York without pay or allocated budget. Mr. Combs promised that Miss Richards' compositions would result in payment of license fees and royalties pursuant to her contract with Bad Boy Records. However, no such compensation was reported or paid to Miss Richard. Damages relative to these continuing copyright infringements would be proved at trial. You know what, y'all? I done read enough of this. And it's a long, if you really go and read the rest of the lawsuit that Dawn filed against him and the claims that she have, it's a lot. I only read a little bit of it. Diddy, you are trash. I believe everything you did to these women. It's been known for years that Diddy been a snake, that Diddy was a monster, that Diddy was not a good person. And you know, that's why Diddy has these recent videos lately within the past few years where he was talking about, you know, he spent hours crying, and sometimes you just got to cleanse your soul and get all that stuff out. Diddy, every dog has its day, and you knew your day was coming. You knew your day was coming. I believe every word in this lawsuit, everything I done read so far, and I know it's so much more, but my spirit, I don't have the energy to read the rest of it. This is ridiculous. Like I said, Aubrey O'Day was telling us for years that Diddy was a nasty person. She was the only one at the time willing to speak up until Cassie came out, and now Dawn is coming out, and Aubrey, she said she's congratulating Dawn for finally speaking up, because Aubrey O'Day, like I said, for a long time, she was the only one that was willing to speak out against Diddy. Anyway, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me for yet another video. If you're not one of my Get Your Game members, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And Diddy, if your tired ass get there cause you rich and you probably got special privileges in prison, if they allowed to give you a phone in prison while you in there locked up right now, if you see this video, make sure you subscribe, Diddy, and make sure you hit the like button, because it's good for the YouTube algorithm. I'll holler at y'all and see y'all in the next video. Geech out.